Sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water, and I think of all the things what you're doing, and in my head I paint a picture. Since I've come home, well, my body's been a mess. And I miss your ginger hair and that way you like to dress. Won't you come on over? Stop making a fool out of me. Why don't you come on over, baby? Well, did you have to go to jail? Put your house on up for sale? Did you get a good lawyer? Did you have to pay that fine that you are dodging all the time? Did he fix it up for you? Are you shopping anywhere? Change the color of your hair, and are you busy? Did you have to pay that fine that you were dodging all the time, and you're still dizzy? Since I've come out home, well, my body's been a mess. And I miss your ginger hair and that way you like to dress. Won't you come on over? Stop making a fool out of me. Oh, why don't you come on over, Valerie? Valerie, yeah. Valerie, 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 Valerie. Why don't you come on over, Valerie?
Woohoo! Well done, everybody, and thank you, Lockie. So, hello, everybody, and welcome to Stone and Talk Live. My name's Marianne, and I'm the General Manager of Stone and Talk in Sydney. And a big thank you to Lachlan. Now, for those of you who don't know, for those of you from Sydney, Lachlan is Caroline and Bruce's son. Caroline and Bruce from One Word Flow. So thank you so much, Lachlan, and we'll see you at the other end. Okay, so today's theme, we're talking about COVID-19 warriors, and we've got three really, really interesting founders joining us today. We've got Rob, Joe, and Alison. And before we start the conversation with them, I just wanted to go through some basic housekeeping. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the Q&A button. If you have any questions, you can pop them in the Q&A. If you have any comments, you can pop them in the Q&A, and we'll go through them either when we're speaking or right at the end. And at the very end, we're also doing a draw for a bottle of gin from Archie Rose, which is the background that I've got. So Archie Rose is, since we're all working from home, I live in a suburb called Rosebery in Sydney, which is a very sleepy inner city suburb, but it does have a very interesting distillery, a gin distillery. And they're also a COVID-19 warrior because when the restrictions started, they've got this beautiful bar that you can see, which they had to shut down. But they actually pivoted and started to make hand sanitizer. And as a result, they were able to keep all their 15 bar staff, which is an excellent story. So at the end, we'll be drawing a winner from today, and you'll receive a bottle of Archie Rose gin. Okay, now just to our panelists, we'll get all of them to introduce themselves and also to talk about their business, but more importantly, what they've seen in the last couple of weeks as a result of COVID-19. And I might start with Rob.
G'day.
Hi, Rob. Hi.
So I'm to introduce myself. So anyway, hello everyone. My name's Rob. I am a doctor and the founder of MedApps. So interesting milestone for us this week with MedApps, because it was on the 15th of April that I signed the letters of incorporation for MedApps. So we're actually just over 5 years old, which is kind of crazy to think about, having been operating for slightly longer than that. And we also hit another milestone with 10,000 registered users. The platform we've got is used by hospitals to orientate, onboard and engage doctors, nurses and allied health. And as you can probably anticipate, this has been a really interesting period for us and, well, for the whole world, but particularly for our business, because what we originally characterized as being a platform for solving the problems that I had when I was going through my internship around orientation and communication inside a hospital are really, really big problems when it comes to disaster communication. And so when the wave started breaking over us in a big way and the world sort of turned topsy-turvy inside of the space of a week, we had been slightly ahead of that because we'd sort of seen a little bit of it coming and been in touch with on the hospital side, seeing what was going on, and had started to reposition what we do in terms of a disaster communications platform, because we've got a track record of really good engagement. And as a result of that, we have really spent the last 3 to 4 weeks running flat out, and we've done 2 large implementations and are looking to do 2 to 3 more in the next week. In fact, one of our New Zealand District Health Board went live today. So it's been an interesting time for us because we've always been seen as a low priority for health services, usually coming out of medical education and training budgets. And more recently, we've started to come out of the critical incident budget and shifted from being a nice to have to a need to have. So look, it's been pretty crazy. Fortunately, we've got a really, really awesome team at MedApps. I'm not really sure how they all managed to come on board or how I managed to find them, but we've been working hard and we've been doing some interesting things. And I think it's nice that our team members have. I'm sure that it's been very difficult. I've got to recognise that for a lot of the startups out there, and presumably a lot of people who are listening in. But it's been helpful for us to have something to focus on during what's been a really weird period. I'm sure that everyone's feeling the same way.
Okay, no, that's great.
I don't want to run to overtime.
No, that's okay. But one of the questions that I had for you, Rob, is that a few weeks ago you were kind enough to write an opinion article. So that was a couple of weeks ago, where you talked about the rate of infection and some of the basic things that we can do to actually keep it in control. What are your views now about when you think we'll be able to go back to work? And before you answer that, I'm just going to tell everybody that we're going to run a poll. So if you can tell us, when do you think we'll be able to go back to work? If you can do that right now, that'd be awesome.
I think maybe I should qualify this by saying, what do we mean by back to work? As in like an open country?
Oh, well, no. I think open country as in total normality is still a long way away. I guess, I mean, if we think about what we're doing now, I mean, in Sydney, for example, we normally have over 500 residents. And when we decided to temporarily close a few weeks ago, we literally had 10 people coming, and we were still open for business, but people were too scared to come to work because of public transport and being close to other people. So when do you think that people, and particularly people in our space who most of them can work from home, when do you think they'll be able to come back?
Yeah, well, I think, so Tom, who's one of the directors at MedApps, he's got 2 kids at home. So I know that he's raring to get back into the office to have somewhere to go. Look, I think it's been really surprising just how quickly Australia's been able to bring down well, what they're calling the R delta, or the change in the R naught over time, or at the point in time. So initially it was sort of 2.5, and now it looks to be much lower than 1. And as a result, we're seeing infections really slow down. And I think that we probably, obviously, I don't know too much about this, but we're probably going to be shifting from what is now a containment strategy to possibly an elimination strategy similar to New Zealand. And so I think that it's possible that by June, hopefully, we might be able to be back and up and running. And I think that would be awesome, because if we're back up and running by June, then the government's done a great job. The hospital system hasn't been overwhelmed. We've saved a lot of lives.
Okay, great. And we've just got the poll results. So most people think we'll be back in the next 3 months, which is 41% in July, and then followed by next 2 months or longer, August onwards. Thank you for that.
The Brains Trust says I'm being optimistic.
Yeah, excellent. And before we move on to Joe, tell us about the dog in the background.
So this is a picture from home. So I grew up on a farm between Moree and Gundawindi in northern New South Wales, and it's where my parents still are. And that's a picture of early wheat crop and our dog Bear at home. So that's my happy spot, and hopefully I'll be able to head up there soon and work remotely for a little while. Excellent,
cool. Thank you, Rob. And we'll go to Joe now. So Joe, Joe is the founder of Pocket Health, but most of you may probably be aware of the product that he's got, which is My Medkit. Now, Joe joined our community sometime in February and in Sydney, but most of you haven't met him yet because he literally joined and then the world kind of exploded. So I'll hand over to Joe to tell us a little bit about his business and what he's seen in the last few weeks.
Sure. So our business is quite simple. So My Medkit is a flagship product of Pocket Health. So basically, it's medicine to your door. Currently, it serves as a prescription delivery app. We believe that people should have access to healthcare from the touch of a button when they're sick, and it makes sense to if you're sick, why go to a place where 20 others or 30 other sick people are to see a doctor or give you medicine. So it's the market obviously before the coronavirus is sort of still people didn't know this existed, and obviously it's become a necessity now, and so it's been very crazy for us obviously, but it's quite rewarding obviously to help the community and people that need it, especially those with a low immune system. And I think everything's gone to telehealth these days, and it definitely serves our mission to bring healthcare to people's homes. So it's definitely given us, we're definitely very lucky to be, still have this opportunity, like so many other businesses probably affected. Yeah, I think we're doing what we love. We're creating a solution for a problem. That's obviously a very big problem right now. So.
Fantastic. And Joe, you were on Channel 7 a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And yes. What happened after that story went live?
Yeah, so we being operational in Brisbane, Queensland, that's where our main location is. Over there, we just expanded to Sydney. And from there, the Channel 7 obviously did a news in Sydney, Adelaide, and Melbourne, and then just went everywhere. So we started getting orders from everywhere around the country. And so it was funny that the day of launch, we were all sitting at Stone Chalk actually, and they told us we were going to be on at 6:35 or 6:36. And then, so we got all the pharmacies set up, we got all the stock, the prescription stuff ready, and then all of a sudden you see the user base start growing, and then you go, okay, get ready, and then we got all the stock and everything's ready to go, and then next minute you start getting orders for toilet paper. So toilet paper, and it's crazy. It's obviously a pharmacy stock item, right? So. It's available in the app, and all of a sudden we just we had a lot of orders, and but the first just few days, it was the toilet paper crazy. We just felt it, and the problem wasn't just getting the toilet paper, like because we got our packaging bags to put the pills in, but how do you package a toilet paper? So we're trying to deliver this toilet paper, and for the stock that we had, and then but then it was just you literally just a big solvent toilet paper you just put in people's houses. So yeah, that was fun. So we had that issue, and but the things are becoming normal now. A lot of prescriptions. Also got another funny story. Someone, because the app basically people take a photo of their prescription and they upload to get it delivered that same day. So someone uploaded a big box of KFC. They wanted us to get that for them, but we didn't, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely. So I think you mentioned before, after the Channel 7 news story, you had like 100 pharmacies sign up.
Yeah.
Have you had many more sign up after that?
Yeah, we've got, so we went from just available in Brisbane to, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Cairns, Rockhampton, Wollongong, just all the little places as well. So yeah, it's there was a day where we sent out a fax to all the pharmacies, and my phone just stopped, wouldn't stop ringing. Pharmacies want to jump on board. Yeah, so it's been we have to ensure, one is the patient, they get the medicine, they get what they need. That's the most important thing. At the same time, we need to make from a business sense, make the pharmacy to be sustainable, profitable, increase the patient numbers. So it's challenging, but it's good.
Awesome.
Learned a lot. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joe. Okay, we might move on to Alison. Alison is a founder of CareApp, and she's one of our Adelaide residents. So Alison, I'll let you tell us all about your business and what's been happening for you in the last few weeks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name's Ali. I'm the founder of CareApp, and it's a pleasure to share my Friday afternoon with you over Zoom with a cheeky wine. So CareApp is a beautiful accident, if I can really describe it that way. So I'm actually an occupational therapist, which means I have zero engineering experience, zero software development experience. I have no idea around development and coding. And I think adjusting a CSV file is, moving the dots and dashes is like, some form of coding. But what I did have was deep experience in aged care and lived experience as well. So prior to starting CareApp 3 years ago, I had quite a large team of community care workers. I had 440 care workers, all doing an extraordinary job out in the community, supporting our seniors to love the way they lived. They were doing the things that they needed to do, the personal care, the domestic, the transport, the social support visits. But they were also, many of them, going above and beyond, and none of this was being shared with their colleagues, let alone families and loved ones. And some of the awesome moments that I would hear about, actually I would find out at exit interviews or other really awkward times. And I'm like, this is just such a lost opportunity. Then at the same time, my grandparents, like 1.3 million other older Australians, started accessing care services. Firstly in home care, like where most people start, and then later in residential care. My granddad, when he was in home care, he spent most of his day in the recliner, like, feet up, reclined back, and actually somewhat semi-sedated because he had a bit of dementia, and medication was often poorly managed. And I think Joe would be like, all across that, trying to manage, older Australians trying to manage their own medication. It can be quite tricky. Anyway, through an event with my grandma, he actually ended up in residential care. It was probably one of the better things that ever happened to him. And with his medication being now well managed, this guy who was sort of semi-sedated and not really engaging in life sprung to life, right? Which was amazing. My family was one of those really active families. We're all always on the phone to the nursing home. We lived 800 kilometres away, so it was really the only way we could connect in and get some visibility over what was happening with his care. we were having good conversations with the nursing home. We understood his medical status pretty well. We understood his ulcerating wound. We understood that he kept forgetting to put his hearing aid on the battery chargers and whatnot. What we didn't know was that my granddad, with his newfound, you know, medication being well managed and his new spring in his step, was actually starting to enjoy cheeky light beers every Friday afternoon, like grandfather, like daughter, you know, granddaughter. He used to be quite handy on the tools, working at Ford Motors. So he was like the Mr. Fix-It guy around the nursing home, and he would fix the sliding door. He fixed the sliding door once, helping the nurses out between the dining room and the courtyard. But all of this stuff we didn't know as a family, and it would have completely changed our experience and our view of residential care. Our view of residential care really was one where his medical status was being well managed, not the fact that he was actually having a ripping good time in there. With these kind of things floating around in my mind, quite naively, I thought, how hard could it be to develop a piece of technology to solve this problem? I started CareApp in 2017. I built and sort of really hacked together a really supremely ugly product and pushed it out into the market. And at the time, I was so proud of this product. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, it got published in the app stores. This is amazing. I look back on it, it was lime green and white, and really quite an eyesore, but it worked. And it was one of the key takeaways that I always share with other, you know, people who are looking to develop products, is to get something out into the hands of users super, super, super quickly, even if it's really, you know, not terribly aesthetically pleasing, because you'll learn a lot. So that was 2017. 2018, with a bit of confidence under my belt, we released a product that kind of resembles CareApp as you might see it today. You know, it was our first version of it, probably, you know, slightly better than an MVP. And really spent the next year, so 2018, 2019, really learning and understanding CareApp. I spent quite a bit of time in the US in 2019 as well, to really understand globally what was happening in the aged care space. How does CareApp fit in? When I landed in the US, I was completely overwhelmed and daunted. But it was probably, you know, the best weeks and months that I spent last year. Learning. And then late last year, we closed out our first raise, positioning us to really build out our product and scale our team. And then we find ourselves in this really bizarre position in 2020. We were ready to scale, you know, sort of excitingly, we've exceeded our targets for 2020 by 10 times already. And it's a combination of, I think it's a combination of, you know, being ready for the opportunity. Although I do say sometimes my development team says that, you know, it would have been better if COVID had hit 6 weeks later, because we had a release, you know, that we had planned. We had to push it forward, but nonetheless, you know, we managed it. But I've always had this view of act local but think global, which the whole, you know, heading to the US thing was, you know, was part of that. Always, you know, thinking globally from the get-go. And so with COVID, I was actually watching overseas what was happening. You know, it was really quite extraordinary. COVID hadn't really hit Australia at this point, and I'm sitting at the Fringe in Adelaide one afternoon, and decided that I think this is going to be a real problem for our most vulnerable Australians, which is who we work with. And I wondered, what can we do as a provider to this community? What support can we provide? So I actually brought most of my team together on a Sunday evening. That's how cool the CareApp team is. Thank you guys. I know you're online now, so thank you. Came in on a Sunday evening, and we decided to make CareApp free for every single aged care provider in Australia. And the response was extraordinarily overwhelming. They really understood the CareApp value proposition. They really understood the fact that we have them in this moment, that we will wrap our arms around them and really support them through this tricky time, and not just them, but their broader community. And through that, you know, we have probably experienced, you know, some of the most exciting, but also the most challenging weeks at CareApp. So, you know, that's our story over the last 3 years, and it's been a wild ride.
Awesome. Thank you, Alison. We've actually got 2 questions from Caroline here, but I think we've only got time to answer one of them. And I'm going to pick her second question, which, what has been the greatest benefit that CareApp has delivered to the community as we manage the lockdown?
Yeah, I think really quite simply, CareApp provides that real personalised and reassuring window into the care and wellbeing of loved ones who are in residential care. I think we've all seen some of the really distressing images of family members standing outside windows trying to connect with their loved ones. We also hear stories of, you know, people trying to use tools like Zoom or other video conferencing tools. You know, that is a way to connect and communicate, but it's actually also a really distressing and tricky way to connect and communicate between loved ones. Not only have you got physical impairments, but you've got, you know, cognitive impairments as well that significantly affect the experience. It was also a huge imposition on already time poor staff inside residential care. So CareApp provides a really efficient, easy way to provide that reassuring window for family members into those moments that are happening inside residential care. What we find with family members is they're not looking for the big, you know, necessarily the big moments that are happening. Like they don't, you know, they're not asking for content relating to the big Easter celebration. If they can just get some visibility or reassurance that their loved one is doing okay, whether it's the fact that they're just out of bed, showered and ready for the day, that is lovely. Even family members who are end stage or in palliative care, just some reassurance that they're traveling through that process okay, they're peaceful, they're restful. All of this, you know, really contributes to managing family members' anxiety and worry. And remember, we're working in a climate already where 70% of family members don't trust their aged care provider, and now they're locked out.
Awesome. That's really, really good. Okay, we're nearly out of time here, so I don't think we've got time for any more questions. So I'd like to thank Joe, Rob and Alison for joining us this afternoon. We've got to draw the winner of the Archie Rose Gin, and that person is Maycon Costa from One Word Flow. So we'll be sending you a bottle of gin before the next SNC Live. Congratulations. And also please stay tuned for Lachlan. He's going to do another song, and I know when this pandemic ends and we're allowed to have more than 2 people at a party, that Lachlan is available, particularly in Sydney, to actually do some performances at parties. So when that happens, we'll definitely be contacting you, Lockie. Okay, take it away, Lockie. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This song is it's called Just the Two of Us. It's by the late Bill Withers. So I suppose I'll just take it away for you. Just the Two of Us. See the crystal raindrops fall and the beauty of it all. When the sun comes shining through, to make those rainbows in my mind when I think of you sometimes, and I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us, we can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us, just the two of us, building castles in the sky, just the two of us, you and I. We make for love, no time for tears, wasted water's all it is. But it don't make no flowers grow. Good things might come to those who wait, not to those who wait too late. We gotta go for all we know. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I. Just the two of us. You and I. Just the two of us. Just the two of us building castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I. I see the crystal raindrops fall down the window, down the hall, till it becomes the morning dew. Good things might come to those who wait, not to those who wait too late. You'll never know if it is you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I.
Woohoo! Thanks, Lockie. Thank you so much and have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Bye.